Starting off with our simple questions. Just kidding. I do have some talking points from the label, but I just wanted to get straight into the music. And because you are the drummer, I wanted to get into your drum sound on the record because it's phenomenal. And I want to address it in... I don't want it to sound like it's not a compliment because it's a compliment, but it almost sounds like it shouldn't be a good drum sound, but it's amazing. It almost sounds like you were like, I want empty ice cream tubs when I hit the drums. But I also want it to sound phenomenal. And somehow you guys figured that out.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea behind that is, to me, as a drummer, and I'm also recording and mixing stuff myself, all of the Mass Worship stuff is handled that way. But to me, drumming is like the foundation of a house, so to speak. And in general, you know, when you're writing and recording a record, it should be, to me, like building a house. Handcrafted, you should get the quirky parts should be left intact, you know, it should feel like a unique thing. Mm-hmm. And the drum sound is the like foundation of that. And it's super important to me that it sounds unique. That I don't want it to sound like a production line, you know, type of album. I want it to sound really unique. And we rented a place pretty close to where I live in Sweden right now. And it's just this old house. Like, it's not really great for recording, but there's a studio in there that a friend of mine has. And we just went crazy in every single way. We brought down our drum kit from Stockholm, Yamaha recording custom, like classic 80s sounding drums. And we just put it in the room, tried a bunch of different mics. And then it was just about, you know, building this foundation of the house, so to speak. And that's it, really. And I agree, like it's going to be a turnoff for some people, I think. It doesn't sound like typical, you know, your typical metal drums. Right. But that's exactly what we want with it.
Yeah. Because what is it, like the Steven Slate package or whatever, you know?
Yeah. It's funny that you mention it. It's like my go-to like critique of most metal bands today is like, as soon as someone sends something over, I'm like, yeah, but it's the Steven Slate drums. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, even if they recorded it, they fucking oversampled everything. Right. Every single hit is Steven Slate at the end of the day. And I hate it. I fucking hate it.
Yeah. Well, it's free now. Steven Slate Trigger 2 is free now.
Holy shit. That's crazy. Yeah, so that's going to become more prevalent then.
Yeah. It's going to explode now.
I mean, it's good. I mean, it's nice, you know, that people can do good productions from home. But I really, you know, I love the idea of building stuff from scratch. Like, at least try to do it from scratch. Even if it sounds like shit, just fucking try your best to, you know, make something unique.
Yeah. Yeah. Authentic shit, at least.
Yeah, I mean, because then it's gonna last for longer, you know. It's gonna be interesting for longer, and I don't know, like it's just we don't need more of, you know, Steven Slate copies. Like it's enough of that shit now.
Yes, and Kemper Profile 5153s.
Exactly, yeah.
But that was the first thing that I listened to the music, and right off the bat, obviously musically, you know, I didn't even have a chance. It was like I was in the middle of war as soon as it hit me. I'm like, but as somebody who's also into audio, I was like, man, they spent some time on this record. The drums sound amazing. The guitars sound amazing. Everything sounds amazing. And it sounds like you guys spent quite a bit of time on the drums. How long did you spend on the drums?
That takes the longest, always, for me. Yeah. Like both the actual recording. I think we spent, what was it, like probably 6 days recording the parts, because I'm also the one writing all of the stuff. So I don't really have time to, like, the setup that we used to have. I used to live in Poland and not in Sweden. And the rest of the band was stuck in Sweden. So the setup we had was I used to write the stuff back in Poland. Yeah. And then whenever we decided to start recording it, I just went straight to the studio, learned the part while being in the studio. So that always takes a bit of time. And then, you know, we recorded in a way where we split up parts. So we play the verse and then we play the chorus. It's not like live takes or anything like that. But that would be impossible. Like, it would be impossible for us to do live takes with this kind of setup. So we spend quite a lot of time on the drums, recording it and mixing it takes a long time, finding the right sounds, you know, but that's also the fun part of it is, you know, experimenting with sounds, you know, creating something unique. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you did the mixing and the mastering as well?
Not the mastering, but the mixing. Mastering is done by Brad Boatwright, Audio Siege. He's been doing all of my mixes for 10 years now, I think. Wow. Both for other bands and my bands as well. Really cool guy from Portland.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess why him? Just because he's been there for 10 years? You get along with him? You guys had sandwiches once in Portland?
Yeah, I wish. No, I think that in the beginning, I used to play in a band called Gust from Sweden too, like a crust punk band that we used to have. And we just decided to send it over to him. He got recommended by some other bands. We decided to send it over, and he actually sent our record to Southern Lord in Los Angeles, and we got signed to Southern Lord because of that. And then, it kind of created this relationship with both Southern Lord and with Audio Siege, and I just kept that communication up all the time. And he's like just my go-to. I know, I want things to be really a punch in the face, and he's one of those guys, Brad, that can make a recording really sound like a punch in the face. Mixing is important, but the mastering is like where it takes it over the top. And I really like that. He's a punk guy. He used to play in From Ashes Rise and a bunch of other bands. So he's like more into the punk side. It's not this pristine, typical metal side, which I really like.
Yeah. It's more like a hockey puck to the face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or a tank.
Yeah,
being overrun by a tank. That's how we usually refer to it.
Yeah, a tank that I didn't see. I was like crossing the street and I was like, what's going on? Oh, I think I'm going to go get that sandwich over there. And then, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. And then getting into the guitar sound, I know the music video, there was it looks like a 6505 standing there, but it sounds like a distortion pedal's in the mix somewhere. Would you mind taking me through the guitar sound?
Oh, it's so much shit going on. I can't fully remember everything. There's a bit of a blend of the original tone that I had when I was recording, which is like a DI into some sort of plugin. But I don't like using that again for the sake of it being just too simple and not unique enough. But the core of the tone is that. I can't remember what plugin it was or whatever. But then we also reamped it using a Mesa Boogie. Which one is it? One of the more expensive amps. Our guitar player has a Mesa Boogie, and then it was also some sort of Marshall included in that. So it's a hell of a mix of different things. And you can probably hear there's a Agent 2 thrown in there, like the classic Swedish death metal sound, and a bunch of shit. It's a very complex creation, like a fucking monster by itself. Yeah, it's really weird. I couldn't say, oh yeah, it's a Marshall this and plugged into this pedal. It's not that simple. It's like a couple of pedals plugged into this amp, and then a couple of other pedals plugged into this amp, and a whole set of mix. It's really weird.
Yeah. Like chainsaws. You guys just took a couple of Husqvarnas out and just tuned them to the song.
yeah. That's exactly. Yeah.
But it all suits it, and it suits the drums too, which is absolutely fantastic. I guess maybe take us through what you guys were intending to do with this record. Is there a theme to it? Is there something that you guys wanted to do with it in particular?
Yeah, musically, definitely. I mean, there are some things that we decided very early on to do, stuff like directions that we wanted to walk in with this album. And two of the main components that we've added to this record is the melodic parts. I think it's a much more melodic record than our debut, and the progressive parts. Like we really wanted it to be more of a progressive sounding record. And I mean, we see ourselves as more of a progressive band than your typical death metal band. Like we are not a death metal band. We have some tendencies from that, and some heritage from other bands, Swedish bands. But yeah, those are the main two things that we decided very early on, that, okay, these are things that we want to explore. We want to add these components into the mix and, explore a bit more. But then when it comes to the actual content, the themes of lyrics and stuff like that, like I just can't write stuff, deciding beforehand that this record is going to be about, blue whales or whatever. Right. It doesn't happen like that. It's more like I'm trying to communicate through music, and then whatever comes out is whatever comes out. Yeah. And then you try to make sense of it in terms of language,
You just struck me in the heart because, you know, in Canada we have those tourist spots where you see the whales come up and they go like this and they come down. Yeah. Do you guys have that in Sweden? Do you guys take tourists out onto a boat and be like, "Oh, look at the whales"? And they're like, "Ah," they do the.
So unfortunately we don't have whales. I think. I mean, there might be some of them popping up, but not very often.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, they don't.
Not much to see in the water around here.
Aw. What do you guys do in the water then?
Yeah, you don't go in the water; it's too cold.
That's a good point. I've been that far north. It is definitely cold water.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I was in St. Petersburg for a little bit, which is
nice.
Yeah, kind of somewhat close to you guys in somewhat sort of way.
Yeah.
On a clear day, you can see freedom. I mean, Finland. On the other side. And yeah, it was June and I could see my breath. Let's just put it that way. Like mano, pajamo, slammo. Okay. Oh yeah, I remember I made a joke when I was watching the music video about how I saw there's like a bullet belt on the bass player.
Oh yeah.
And that he's using bullets for guitar picks, and that's why his bass sounds so phenomenal.
Yeah. Could be, yeah. He's the true crust punk of the band. Like he's been playing in a lot of really cool bands, classic Swedish punk bands. Yeah. I don't know if you know Wolf Brigade. That's like a classic crust band from Sweden, and Asta Kask, and he's like a true punk. And then you know the belt is from that aesthetics, I think.
Is it him running around in the music video with the eyes?
Yeah, that's him.
All right.
We just picked him to be the guy. You need to play the main role in these videos. And that's his job.
Yeah, he's like, all right, sweet. Where's the shovel? In the water. Yeah. I'll go get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that this character? Is that part and parcel to like the theme, maybe lyrically on the album? I know that you said that you don't set out to have a theme lyrically, but when you guys were done, did you sit down and go, "Hey, it turns out there's a guy here with eyes, and we need a guy with eyes"?
No, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, you know, there isn't a predefined theme that we've all collectively decided on, but there is a theme. And yeah. I mean, at the core of the whole record is about this like search for meaning in a kind of meaningless existence. I believe we as a society have reached a point where we're very, you know, we don't really look forward to any great future. We don't have that kind of perspective anymore. We lost it. We lost our way to envision our way out of all of this shit that we're in. And in that sense, you know, that that's really what we're trying to explore. And with that comes, you know, facing death of old perspectives, new perspectives, whatever it may be, imaginary, etc. And the whole video thing is just based around that concept. Killing perspectives, old perspectives that you used to have, and replace them with new ones. Yeah, and that's also where Portal Tombs come from. You know, killing old ideas and replacing them with new perspectives, all of that stuff. Yeah. Well, like where I've been the last little bit, I came across a meme the other day that said it's 1998. You've got pizza delivery coming in. You've got GoldenEye. You've got 4 Rumble Packs and 4 friends. And you have no idea, but right now is the best moment of your life and it will never get better. And I just thought that's kind of sad and true at the same time. Yeah, it is. And I mean, yeah, but we really, we really come to a point where that's, you know, that's the ultimate truth, really. Like people are always nowadays looking back, you know, like, you know, to times like that, 98, that was amazing, you know, or even if you're a bit older, you know, the 80s were probably, you know, the time of their lives. And I have a feeling, you know, back in the day in the 60s, 50s, people were actually looking forward. They knew that they are building the future in a way. And now we felt like we already built the future and it's not going very well. You know, 98 was much better. Let's go back to Super Nintendo and, you know, all that shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had the space race and everything back then. And you know, TV shows that were about robots and things, and then we get to now and it turns out robots are just on a line building cars that not that inspirational. no, but that's exactly it. I mean, it seems such a trivial idea, but I think it has a huge impact on society and on individuals as a whole. All of those things, it's like the underlying structure of society. I agree.
You mentioned lyrics. I was going to ask if there were lyrics. It doesn't really sound
Yeah,
like...
it's not many of them. Like, what is it? 80 words per song or something? That's probably counting too high. Maybe 20 words per song.
Yeah.
But that's another one of those like punk things. I mean, all of us grew up listening to a lot of punk. We used to play a lot of punk, and we loved that, you know, the urgency and the like smack in the face that punk and crust has. And I think it's missing in metal, really. And the way we do vocal arrangement is definitely inspired by that. Mm-hmm. Like, it should be fucking as hard as possible, short, you know, commanding, almost like standing on a pedestal, you know, commanding you.
Yeah. I guess, how do you know when you're there, Fred? How do you know when you're there?
With the songs, you mean? Or
yeah, with the songs. So you set out to say all those things, like, we want to punch people right in the face. You know, my grandmother is like, what happened? And how do you know when you're there? Like, when you're demoing songs, is it like in pre-pro where you're figuring this out?
Yeah, a lot of it is, for sure. And I mean, it's a lot of, you know, talk back and forth. Is this really, does this give us this feeling of being overrun by a tank multiple times or not? Mm-hmm. If it doesn't, maybe it's not, you know, maybe it's not mass worship. But it is in the emotion. That's when you feel that it's done, you know? Are we inviting people into a different dimension? Are we giving them a different perspective? Are we, you know, evoking some emotions that are typically not evoked? Some ambiguous emotions, you know, not these McDonald's type of emotions that you get fed every day through TV or other types of, you know, commercial music and arts and stuff like that. We want to evoke something else. And as soon as something else is evoked, okay, it's a song, it's a mass worship song, let's keep it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I took away when I listened to the tracks was, yes, I'm being punched in the face with a hockey stick. It's a tank. I'm being ran over by a tank multiple times. But something else you mentioned too was there's melodic stuff in there. There's progressive stuff in there. And even from a mix perspective, like, for example, a lot of times I notice in the left ear, I get just a solo guitar in the left ear chugging. And then there was a point, I can't remember which song it was. Maybe it was Orcus Mouth. Maybe I'm making things up. But there was a distorted guitar in the left, and it was being mimicked or doubled by an acoustic guitar in the right.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of shit like that happening all the time.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. I mean, take me rather through that. Like, how did you guys come up with that? Were you like, you know what? Bam, left. We know we need over here. Acoustic guitar. You go record acoustic guitar. Or did you?
I wish I could do it way more than what we're doing, but I think it's like, you know, there's limitations to what you can do while still keeping up the impact. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, you could do, you know, a fucking kick drum in the left ear and the bass is on the right side, you know? Uh-huh. But you can't really get away with that in modern metal, unfortunately. But I would love to do more of that stuff. But I mean, when it comes to like the melodic stuff, I think it, like, for being such a like hard and, you know, devastating band as it is, most of the songs are rooted in melodies. Like that's where most of the song starts. It's like with some sort of melody, and then we build, you know, the relentlessness around that, so to speak.
Yeah. So
that's why it's like acoustic parts in some places and shit like that. It just makes sense.
Yeah. So it's a song. So I guess that brings me back to, it's not like a bunch of riffs that were taped together and it's like a Frankenstein.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I'm definitely not a riff guy at all. Some of the other guys are in the band, like they love, you know, riff rock and riff metal and all that shit. But I just can't write riffs. I can write themes, you know, come up with, okay, this gives me this emotion. I want to explore that shit. I don't give a fuck, you know, how it's going to sound like. I just want to go after that emotion that I feel. Yeah. And then you just hunt it. And hopefully it's going to end up, you know, being a good song. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it doesn't, and then you just have to scrap it. But, you know, sometimes you're lucky and then it becomes this fully bloomed song that becomes a mass worship song. And yeah.
Do you delete them, like right click empty trash, or do you have like a separate hard drive for this idea didn't make it today, maybe next year?
Nah, I wish I was that, you know, I could categorize it properly, but it's just, I think I'm very like a lot of other people. I just, you know, name it, project name, and then it just slowly disappears in time. You know, it's not like I'm not archiving it properly or anything like that. It's just sticking in the, you know, demo mass worship album too. And then you're like, you just forget about it. You think when you do it, fuck, this is so fucking great.
Yeah.
and then you just forget about it because you found something more interesting. It's like, yeah, I don't have the intention to cater to the old stuff. Fuck it, like let's just leave it. But I also don't delete it. It just feels too much,
Right.
If you spend like fucking 10 hours on a song, for example, it just hurts too much to delete it. I can agree with the guys. Okay, this is not a mass worship song, let's forget about it. That's
Right.
one thing.
Yeah.
But just pressing delete, it just hurts too much, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And then bending back on what you said earlier about drums on the left and bass on the right, I would love to hear, because obviously they did that back in the day because of how records had to be produced back in the day.
Yeah.
But I would kind of love to hear a band do that today.
But Queens of the Stone Age, Song for the Deaf, they are doing that on a couple of songs. I think the title track has drums in only the left side of the ear, and it took me a couple of years to realize that, because I was like, yeah, this sounds great,
Yeah.
And then when I got older, I was like, wait a second, what the fuck? It's only drums in the left side.
Yeah.
And then there's like a tambourine on the right side only, and that's it.
Right.
And so there are bands that manage to do it. It's a super cool thing. Like I just wish we had the dynamic range to continue doing stuff like that. But everything is getting pushed. It needs to be super loud and super impactful. And I think mass worship in that sense have been dragged into the same competition, so to speak. And I would like us to drift away a bit more. Dare to go a bit away from that more and more with time.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely possible. I mean, keep evolving or whatever, because it has the impact, but it also has the depth. Because as I was listening to the tracks, I was like, okay, because you mentioned we're not a death metal band. Obviously, immediately when I get hit, I'm like, all right, here's another kind of death metal band, but it's not. And there's definitely something deeper and more intrinsic there to go along with everything. So. Yeah, I mean, just obviously keep evolving. I think it'll work.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the goal, at least for us, to be progressive. Like, we want to try new stuff. We want to do new things. That's it. We don't want to be a clone band. Like, and I think that's the shit that hurts us the most, when someone tells us that we sound like, a clone band or whatever, because I don't think we do at all. Like, you can mention 60 bands if you want to that we sound inspired by. But I don't think you can say this sounds like Meshuggah 100%. Like, we don't do that, or we don't sound 100% like At the Gates. Like, it's not that simple.
Yeah. I didn't think that personally.
That's good.
Yeah. But I mean, it does. I do have in my notes. It says right here, inspiration from bands such as At the Gates. It does say that.
We have the inspiration.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But we're not trying to clone At the Gates. That's the difference.
Yeah, I know. What other talking points we need to hit here, Fred? Otherwise, management's going to be upset. Just kidding. Actually, so Mark from Napalm Death. How did? Oh yeah, and then Jonas from Catatonia. How did they get involved? Did you just reach out, like shoot him a text, like, hey, bro, I got a thing?
Yeah, got a record here. No, Barney happened through the punk guy, Dadde. Like I said, he used to play in a bunch of punk bands, Wolf Brigade in particular, a Swedish classic cross-punk band, great band. And they've been playing a bunch of shows with Napalm Death, so he knows Barney. He just texted Barney, you want to guest on this record that we're doing? It would be amazing. And he texted back, sure, let's do it. Yeah. And then he just came up with these, we gave him the lyrics for that, and the arrangement, but then he also added, there's a couple of like chants in the end of the track that he just came up with, and, a bit of experimentation. So that was super cool. Jonas from Catatonia I think it's both through our singer, who is doing tour management and like rental. He's renting out tour vans for bands. So he has like shitloads of connections in Stockholm. And then also Niklas Sandin, who was doing our videos, he's also playing in Catatonia. So that's like the real connection to Catatonia. Mm-hmm. And we just wrote him, and do you want to sing on this? If you want to write the lyrics, come up with a melody, feel free. Otherwise, we'll do it. And he was like, no, I'll write my own stuff. I'll come up with a melody. And it would just turn out great.
Yeah. I'll do it myself. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
fuck you guys. I'll do it myself.
I'll do it.
No, and he was also amazingly cool about it. We also had Jonas from At the Gates doing a solo. He was practicing like right next door when we were recording the album.
Mm-hmm.
So he came by and he did a solo as well. I guess just, it's both luck, and then it's also in combination with old connections from previous bands and stuff like that. And fortunately, they liked it enough to put their name on it. So.
Yeah. How does that feel? I mean, second album.
That feels amazing. Always. Yeah. It's insane. I mean, especially when it's people like that. Like it's from 3 bands that we all love. And it's also from 3 bands that represent, 3 different sides of what we want to do with our music.
Yeah.
And then from, like old fucking idols of all of us. It's just, insane. Mm-hmm. It's like overwhelming.
Yeah, I would think so. Because it's like his second album. You guys set out to be, a tank, and obviously you're doing it, right? And then you got some of these bigger players that are coming in and saying, this is so cool that I want to be a part of it.
Yeah. And it really, and it's kind of the same thing with, Centromedia. We're of course super humble about all of this stuff, especially with the guest parts, but also with Centromedia, we came out as a new project. We didn't really have much, it's a new band, and it's really hard for new bands to cut through, especially if you're doing something that is, a bit hard to define. The production sounds a bit odd, shit like that. But Centromedia were like, sure, let's fucking do it. And they backed us all the way. And just to have that kind of, backing from people that we really respect, and from a label as big as Centromedia that we really respect too, is that, I mean, it feels fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's insane. And you sometimes forget about it, but it's insanely cool.
No, you bring, oh my goodness gracious, excuse me. You bring up a really good point though, Fred. For the last 2 years, everybody's been at home and everybody has access to Steven Slate trigger samples, and the internet is flooded with a sea of shit now. And it's probably harder than ever to cut through, or maybe it's easier to cut through, but that's, I guess, my question. How did you cut through, or how do you cut through? Is it just that you're not a part of the sea of shit, so you just cut right through?
No, I wouldn't say so. I don't think we are cutting through yet. I mean, we're starting to, but I think it's going to take some time. I think Mass Worship is a slow cooker, Mm-hmm. Like we're not going to get the immediate attention because people have a hard time categorize it, and it sounds a bit odd, etc. But we're a slow cooker. I think it's going to grow on people over time. And the people that do actually like us, people that are looking for alternative stuff, they really like us, and they become extremely dedicated to Mass Worship. And I think that's the strength of this band. It's going to take a bit longer for people to get it, mm-hmm. but I think we're going to prevail for longer. It's not a hype band. We don't sound, timed into a specific period like with Steven Slate and all that shit, Yeah. It's like, yes, I think, in the long term, I think Mass Worship is going to, cut through on a bigger basis, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually really exciting. So I guess, do you have like a 5-year plan? Like, do you have like a vision board that I just don't see somewhere where you're like, okay,
not really a vision board. Maybe we should get that actually, but yeah, of course. I mean, I wouldn't stop at 5 years. I think it's like 10, 15 years. Like we know what we want to do. We know where we're heading. We, both musically and goals in terms of touring and stuff like that. And it's just unfortunate that the pandemic happened, because we're like, all of us, again, played a lot of punk and hardcore throughout the years, and we know how to tour. That's like where the secret sauce is in Mass Worship as a band. Mm-hmm. We really know how to tour like crazy. And that was the whole goal with this band. And then, the pandemic happened. We can't fucking tour. We can't play shows. But that, the 5 to 10 year plan is definitely to expand the music in the progressiveness. We want to explore new parts, but also to tour as much as physically possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it says here in the notes that I have. Actually, do you call your fans mass worshipers? Are you guys like, do you guys?
We talked about it. It's a bit of a sensitive topic. I think we're not really sure about addressing our fans, but worshippers, I think, is the official one right now.
Yeah. So if it's just one, it's a worshiper, but if they're all together, then it'd be a mass worshiper. Good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it says you're formed in 2018. I mean, I can't imagine a better time to form a band with goals of touring the world.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
how have you guys fared then in the pandemic climate?
But it's been pretty okay. I don't know how much you know about Sweden's approach to it, but you know it's been pretty chill in Sweden. Like we didn't have a lot of restrictions, so we've been able to play a couple of shows in Sweden at least. We played 2 shows in Denmark last year, and it's been a bit of a sporadic shows here and there in Sweden at least, and Denmark. But we also got the chance to go out with Vader 2020.
Mhm.
There was this opening in the summer, late summer, August, September, I think,
Okay.
where like the restrictions were at ease in all of Europe, and we got a chance to tour with them. So I mean, it hasn't been terribly bad, but we had shitloads of super cool festivals booked, a couple of other tours that were booked that all have been postponed, and that's the shitty side of it, of course. But it's been okay. At least we could focus on the new record, which is great.
Yeah. Okay. Would the record? Do you think the record would have come out with a similar production style if the pandemic hadn't been happening? Like, do you think maybe the pandemic?
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. I think because the whole setting of it and the time you spent on it. Yeah. No, it probably wouldn't have sounded the same or been recorded in the same place even. I mean, shit like that changes so easily, and this was not a small change to the world. It like kind of had a big impact on in a lot of different ways. So no, I wouldn't have sounded the same.
Yeah. Okay. So what is there left to talk about? What's the most, I guess, the craziest thing about either the record to you, or is this the first release with Century Media?
As a second release with Century Media.
Okay.
Cool. And what was the question? The craziest part of it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we finished off chatting about how this record probably wouldn't have happened in the same way if it weren't for the pandemic, which is an interesting thing. So I guess, I don't know, what surprises you the most about this record?
Hard to say. I mean, the main weirdness of the record is really the what we talked about, the whole sound and all of that stuff, like the building of a handcrafted quirky house. That's the kind of stuff that I mean both enjoy listening to the most with the record, but also enjoy the most in doing the record. Building it up from ground up. I guess you're a musician yourself. Yeah, so the feeling, when you're writing music and you're kind of building something from scratch, you don't know where it's going to end up, and the excitement around actually reaching the goal of it, so to speak.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to be not too terribly self-critical. Like, and that's kind of, I think, where I asked the question, how did you know you were there? Because I mean, there's so many times where I'll be working on something, or I'm just jamming on something, and then my wife will walk by and be like,
yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, just doing something. I'm like, what's up?
I can relate to that. No, but to me, it is the feeling, like this. I just feel it. Okay, this feels correct to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the second part of that is just really asking yourself, are you writing this for someone else, or are you writing it for your own sake? Like, is this you communicating to the world, or are you trying to find people to get interested in you? And for me, the primary focus is always to communicate to the world, and then whatever people find that communication and resonate with it, those are the people that were meant to resonate with it, and that's it. Because I think it's already when you start to try to write or cater to a specific group of people, or write for a specific intent, that you want to be fucking famous or rich or whatever it is, you kind of failed already from the beginning. Then it's not a unique thing. It's not something you're trying to communicate. It's about something else all of a sudden.
Yeah, you guys could be the next Swedish Justin Bieber if you wanted to, right?
I'm not sure if I wanted to, but yeah, maybe.
Well, I mean, ABBA came out with a new album.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it was okay.
No, but again, it's like this. I get it. I mean, from a business perspective, that's the way to do it, especially now in like the world of TikTok. where people have 10-second attention span, and that's it. That's the only chance you get with people, essentially.
Yeah.
Then you really need to focus on it if you want to make it commercially. But I think metal and punk music, it should be about communication and honest, unique communication, essentially.
Yeah, that kind of brings the train wreck that I had in my mind was, okay, 10-second attention span, but then punk music is about getting in people's faces fast and quick, and then getting out before the cops show up.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, you can combine the two, and I think that's kind of what we're trying to do with Mass Worship too. And I think that's really what makes Swedish metal in specific stand out. It's that they're really good at combining, some of the punk parts with metal, and finding that bridge between, essentially. I mean, At the Gates is a perfect example of that. They have that past of playing in shitloads of crust punk bands, and I know that they used to record their crust bands in the night shifts of when At the Gates were actually recording their real albums and stuff like that. And then Tombed also has a clear punk vibe to it, and I think that's really what makes Swedish metal so cool, is that they can bridge that. It can be this punch in the face but still be intricate enough for a metal listener to be to enjoy it over time. Because I think punk, yeah, sure, when you get punched in the face, you can only enjoy it for so long, but metal at least expands that time a tiny bit, and makes it a bit more enjoyable through time, so to speak.
A little more enjoyable to get punched in the face,
Exactly. You can endure it for a bit longer. It's a beautiful punch in the face.
Exactly. Well, the other thing too, you mentioned the punk influence, and then something that I've kind of noted is Swedish metal can also be quite melodic, and I wonder if that has something to do with, I don't know, being Swedish, like ABBA, for example, being, I don't know, in the blood or something.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah. And it's, we also have, because a lot of those melodies that you can hear both in like ABBA and in Opus, I would say fucking even Meshuggah and stuff like that. You can hear a certain tone of Scandinavian heritage in it. So of course, but and I also think, I mean, Swedish people are so soft, Yes. Even though we play hard music, we're very, you have very, soft and
like teddy bears.
Yeah, kind of like that. And I mean, maybe that plays a part too, At least for me, it's like I have a much easier time starting writing from a melodic perspective than from a riffing perspective, and that goes hand in hand with that too.
Yeah. When you mentioned heritage, is there does Swedish folk music play a part at all? Like, is there anything like classical, not classical necessarily, but like folk music that is ingrained in your head?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it is. And I think you can't get out of it. It's like all of these songs that you heard when you were younger, and there's and then on top of it, there's already metal bands that have been using that for so long. Like Opeth is a perfect example of that. They use that a lot, and it's inspirational for other metal bands. So it's like double-sided, you have it from your childhood, and then if you're into metal, you're also going to get it somehow. But then unfortunately, the punk bands that use those kind of, connotations in their music, they are usually neo-Nazi bands in Sweden, which is not, that's not a territory we want to go into. But,
yeah.
But, it's kind of like reclaiming that side of it. I really like, Scandinavian melodies and stuff like that. It's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask if neo-Nazism is a problem in Sweden.
Yeah, it is. Wow. I mean, not as much today as it used to be. In the 90s, it was really a big problem, especially from the city where I am from, which is a small shithole, essentially. Okay. Working class city. It was huge problems here in the 90s.
Wow.
But it's I think it's been getting better, and then it got worse, and then it's like up and down all the time. Now it's like neo-Nazis in costumes instead, in the government. Pretending to not be neo-Nazis, essentially. But that is just happening all over the place.
Yeah. Little smidge of a bit. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So aside from that, though, Swedes are big teddy bears, just lovely. And going back to heritage, I mean, obviously the question everybody has to ask, okay, you guys are so lovely, then explain the Vikings, right?
Yeah, but Sweden weren't actually so much into the whole Viking rape and looting and that kind of stuff. I think it was primarily the Norwegians and the Danes that were really aggressive.
Yeah.
From what I read, growing up, I also thought Swedes were like, oh fuck, they're like aggressive, and that we have this heritage. But apparently Swedes weren't so involved in it. We were even neutral back then. But that may mean, that we aren't so neutral, because in World War II, we were neutral, but we actually helped the Nazis in a lot of ways. And maybe the Viking stories are the same. Maybe we were actually looting and raping a lot, but we got away with it.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Mercenaries for hire, baby.
Yeah.
Wherever the money goes, the interest flows. Okay. Revel in Fear, Portal Tombs, title track. How did you guys come up with the title track then? Did you guys have the song and you're like, man, that's a killer album title? There's the track Portal Tombs and the album Portal Tombs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like the album was named after the song. And I think it was because I had the feeling that song kind of, encapsulates most of the emotions that we're trying to, evoke with the entire record as a whole.
Yeah.
And it just felt very natural. And with the monolith that we've been using as kind of a symbol on both releases, it just felt like it was a perfect match.
Yeah. Does this guy have a name? The obviously it's in black and white. We'll see what we can do here, because that guy, does that guy have a name? Like, what is going on with this like religious ceremony thing happening in the music video?
Yeah, that's actually, the mask was created by this punk guy in the band, Dadde, as well.
Okay.
Like it's like handcrafted by him. I don't know if it has a name. I'll ask him. I'll send you an email with the name. But that's his creation. It was super cool. He spent like shitloads of time just building it out. We're doing a lot of stuff, DIY, and we just want to, explore creativity in different ways. Music video was another way to do that, and the whole mask and all that stuff was included in that exploration, so to speak.
Yeah, you mentioned DIY. Is that part of the secret, you think, to your success up to this point? If you mentioned you were humble. Do you want to call it success?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't call it success then. But no, but yeah, DIY is like a huge component of everything we do. But it's, again, this shit. We played in punk bands, If you wanted to tour in a punk band, you had to book it yourself. That it's as simple as that. If you wanted it released, you either need to do it yourself, or you need to, fucking contact the label and, really do it the hard way. Usually it's like a label releasing it together with the band, it's not even the label taking on all of the responsibilities. So, so that, and the recording side of it is the same way, we do it ourselves. Like, I really want to, get involved in as many things as possible that I can, because I just love the idea of learning stuff and understanding stuff and doing it my way. That's like key to everything. Yeah. And it is, a common theme throughout the band.
Cool. Well, and the thing is, it's done very well. And I think the difference between DIY that looks like poop and DIY that doesn't is you guys bend it on somebody who's quite clearly talented and had the time to be able to, make the props. Oh yeah, there was tiki torches in the music video, right?
What was it?
Tiki torches.
Oh yeah. It was. Yeah,
I saw that immediately.
We didn't do them by ourselves, unfortunately. But
okay, I was like, oh, that's so metal. Tiki torches. That's fantastic. Can't get any more metal than tiki torches. Yeah, and I got here. You mentioned already that Jonas stopped by because he was in the same building and came by to put his magic touch on Orcus Mouth.
Yeah. He's practicing in the same building. It's a friend of mine that has a studio in another shithole close by.
So many shitholes. What's with the shitholes, Fred?
Yeah, fucking industrial western part of Sweden. It's like shitholes everywhere. It's unfortunate but true.
Yeah. And I just had Jonas on too because they were releasing something. So a couple months ago, I had chatted with him.
Yeah. He's playing in like 100 bands. So, but was it for At the Gates or?
I'm trying to remember. It was either for At the Gates or one of the other many bands he was in, and I'm drawing a blank immediately. If I look it up, I'm pretty sure I can let you know. While I'm looking it up. Go ahead.
He's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. Well, when the last time a tour came through Edmonton, At the Gates was there. So I was on the bus with Martin, and I was interviewing Martin. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, super nice dude. And also at that point, I had just, speaking of guitar playing and mixing and stuff, I'm part of the Nail the Mix group, if you know who Nail the Mix is.
Oh, yeah.
And they had worked with Russ Russell at that point, and I had just finished watching Russ Russell working on the At the Gates record. So that was pretty cool to just chat with him from...
nice.
Yeah, from that.
Which record did he do? Did he do the what is it called? To Drink from the Night Itself?
Yes. Yeah. And
that's like my favorite record of theirs.
I love it. And we'll get into your reasons why in a second. But yeah, that was a great record. It was fun to watch Russell mix it. And the funny thing is that particular moment, that record changed how I viewed music. Because up until that point, I still thought that there was like studio magic. And then I saw them doing sound check. And I was like, it's not studio magic.
Yeah.
That's what they sound like. Like, I don't know how, when those guys get together, they sound like that. But that's what they sound like. And then that changed me from then on. I'm like, no, like, that's what Mass Worship sounds like. If I heard you guys in a rehearsal room, I'm pretty sure that's what you would sound like.
Yeah. No, I think that's really true for like older bands, people that are playing together for a very long time. They just get into this, like they can't sound anywhere else. It's really amazing to see bands like that.
Yeah. Why did you like the record?
I really like it because, again, it sounds different. It doesn't sound like a classic, typical metal production. And I think also it got quite a lot of shit for that, at least from people I know. And that just makes me like it even more, It's like, it sounds unique. I really, really like it. But also the songs on it is fucking amazing. Like all of it is so cool.
Lurking Fear. I had Jonas on to talk about Lurking Fear.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's again like more of this punkier side of their heritage. Super cool band.
Yeah. And then that was cool because it was like, oh yeah, you're in that other band. Cool. We'll stick to we'll stick to Lurking Fear though. And he's like, we'll talk about whatever. I don't care. Cool. And freaking-tastic. Okay. Anything else about the record that you wanted to chat about? Out February 4th. That's got to be a relief. What's the plan? I mean, you mentioned Sweden's pretty chill about the whole thing. Still with Omicron? Is Sweden still pretty chill with Omicron?
I mean, they started closing down pretty heavily now in like in Christmas times, New Year's, and all that shit. That was the first time they really had to, okay, let's pull the brakes here a bit.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it is kind of crappy. You can't do big events and stuff like that. But it's the first time during the whole pandemic. So I think it's going to be lifted fairly quickly, probably February again, and then events will slowly start happening again. But it seems like, I mean, the goal was when we release it, we want a tour. That's what we want to do with this band.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens now. Everything is like up in the air. We were supposed to go on a tour with a band called Leak from Stockholm. Mm-hmm. And that was supposed to happen in March. And I think that's up in the air now. I don't know if it's going to happen because all of the tours are getting canceled in March in Europe, essentially. So we'll see what happens. It's like you need to adapt to the new reality of the world, essentially. And I think we as a band need to become more digital, which fucking sucks in a lot of ways because we want to do stuff, out in the world. But that's just life.
Yeah,
we're going to record a bunch of playthroughs and new music videos and shit like that just to get some content out there at least.
Yeah. Have you done any live stream performances, or is that in the books?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we saw it in the beginning and we were like, fuck, should we do it? But then it felt like everyone was super stoked on that for like, 1 week. Mm-hmm. And then no one gave a fuck anymore. And now it's like, it feels like no one's going to care if someone does a live stream. It just doesn't work well, unless maybe if you're, Metallica or something, they can do it. But
yeah,
most other bands, it doesn't seem interesting to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even watched one. I've watched like clips of them and whatnot, but the idea for me to And this is just like me, just verbal diarrhea, just out there. The idea for me to spend like $20 or whatever it is a lot of bands are charging to sit in my living room and watch them live stream just doesn't compute in my mind. And I don't know why.
Yeah, no,
it's just me though.
no, but it's the same to me. It's the same to me. I mean, I'm not much of a concert goer, like from scratch. I like writing music. I don't like really going to concerts, but you know, and when I do go to concerts, it's very like selected. I really want to see this band, like, but I agree. Like, I would also not fucking pay money to see a live stream. I know it sucks saying it. I mean, bands fucking suffer for these kind of things.
Yeah,
but it's just not the same thing. Like when you go to a show, you go there to see people. Like you want to get into a new ambience and, you know, get sucked into another atmosphere. And when you're sitting in a living room watching it, and especially if you can pause it and stuff like that, it just kills the vibe. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. Similar as well for me, especially after doing interviews and things. Now I can go backstage, and the last time I had gone backstage, I think officially, 2019, and that would probably have been In Flames. And the funny thing is, it was down the street from my house, so I quite literally got there. In between the meet and greet, I sat down with Bjorn, chatted with him, and they're like, "Are you gonna watch the show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go home and make dinner." So I went home, made dinner, and I was just like, I couldn't, It's like, you know, if my wife is gonna come with me, then we kind of make like a thing out of it, and she gets the photo pass, and she likes to take pictures and stuff. But like if it's just me by myself, I'm like, I could be at home with my kids, you know. It's just
yeah. Yeah, but I think it's completely valid, especially if you play music yourself. Then, you know, maybe that's your, you know, focus. That's how it is for me. Right. I feel like it's a valid excuse. I don't like going to concerts because I'm fucking playing music all day, and you know, that's enough.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stand there and watch somebody else play.
Exactly.
Well, that's the other
it sounds so fucking crappy.
I know. Well, I just like, I'm one of those guys. I just like,
yeah.
And
even when you. Yeah. Even when I enjoy it, I'm always like that, like just standing in the back, you know, looking bored as fuck.
Yeah. Well, you know, it wasn't boring, this chat. So thank you so much, Fred.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Amazing.
Absolutely. I got to jump on to the next one. Speaking of label mates, I'm about to chat with Wild Run.
Oh, cool. I haven't checked their album out yet, but I've seen it popping up everywhere. I'm going to check it out now just because we talked about it.
Yeah, it's sick. It's like Opeth and Camelot and Epica made a baby, and I could probably throw another band in there somewhere, but we mentioned Opeth, and I got those vibes as well. So killer stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Fred. And
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this was live as of right now. The VOD for Twitch will also be available. So if you want to send any of your fans over to twitch.tv/John J. Harris, they'll be able to check out the VOD for 14 days. In that time frame, I'm also going to get this packaged and put it up on YouTube. So I'll send out the link to my contact over at Century Media. And if you want, you can shoot me an email, and then I can let you know when that goes live as well.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Cheers. Talk to you later. Bye.